everyone. Today I'm going to read My Best Friend Bob. Brian the guinea pig lived in a nice comfy cage in Pete's pet palace with his best friend Bob. Brian had short shiny fur, which he was very proud of. Bob had long tufty fur, which he didn't really think much about. The two guinea pigs spent their days doing what guinea pigs do best: eating, sleeping and playing I Spy. Brian was terribly good at I Spy and almost always won with clever words like budgerigar and dog food. One day Brian and Bob were busy playing when a little boy walked into the shop. "I spy my little eye," said Bob, but before he could finish, the little boy reached into the cage and picked him up. "I want this one," the boy said. "I shall call him Fluffy." Brian watched as Bob was putting a cardboard box with lots of holes in the lid. He just had time to wave goodbye and Bob was gone. Suddenly the cage felt very big and empty. "Oh dear," sighed Brian, "I shall miss Bob," and he trundled off to find a peanut to cheer himself up. But he didn't cheer up at all. In fact, every day Brian missed Bob more and more, and every day he felt more and more miserable. Then one day Brian was sitting in his cage feeling very glum when he noticed an old man peering down at him. The man picked him up and smiled. He's just what I was looking for," he said, and he put Brian into a box. At first Brian was excited. "Maybe there'll be other guinea pigs in my new home," he said to himself. He began to whistle and felt much more cheerful. But that evening he found himself all alone, without so much as an earwig for company. Brian sighed. He wished he was back at Pete's pet palace. At least he could chat to the goldfish there. "I wonder what's happened to my best friend Bob," whispered Brian. "He's probably forgotten all about me by now." He wiped away a tear and curled up into the straw. The next morning Brian hadn't even opened his eyes when he felt his box being lifted up. "What's happening now?" he grumbled, but he didn't really care. Things couldn't get much worse than they were already. He drifted back to sleep, dreaming of Pete's pet palace and winning a peanut throwing contest with Bob. A little while later Brian was woken up by a buzz of excited voices outside his box. "Oh, bother," he said crossly. "Can't I at least have some peace and quiet?" Then suddenly the lid was lifted off and a bright light streamed into the box. Brian looked up to see a little boy smiling down at him. He sleepily wondered if he had seen the boy somewhere before. The boy picked Brian up and gave him the biggest hug he ever had. "Oh, thank you, Grandad," he said happily. "He's just what I wanted. I shall call him Snuffles." The little boy put Brian into his new hutch. Brian stretched out and sniffed the air. "That's funny," he said, and sniffed the air again. As Brian watched a pile of hay in the corner start to move, and all of a sudden, "Bob! Brian!" Brian was so excited to see Bob, he thought he might just burst with happiness. That evening, sitting together in their hutch playing I Spy, the two little guinea pigs had almost forgotten they had ever been apart. "I spy with my little eye," said Bob, "something beginning with P." But Brian was already fast asleep. That's the end of our story. Hope you enjoyed it.